got its name probably around about, what do you think, about 1845?
1843, the name was chosen when the post office went in.
Yeah, and it was a very fruitful woolen mill that William Heathcote created, and the building is there to be seen to this day. And but up until that point, the Susquehanna-Baltimore Railway was known as Heathcote Junction. And then they changed the name, and William Heathcote himself must have been a great fan of Walter Scott because he called it Glen Rock. And you may wonder where in Walter Scott's writings did the words Glen Rock come from. Well, I've spoken to 3 professors who are experts of Walter Scott, and they've not really been able to pinpoint those 2 words together anywhere. But there is a little verse in something that Walter Scott wrote called Marmion, and there we do get Glen and we do get rocks, and maybe that was the inspiration that William Heathcote drew on. But it's still an open riddle, so if anybody can solve it, please tell me. You noticed all sorts of things when you came over, Darryl. I wonder if you remember when you were in here and we were looking at an exhibition, and some of you might have been with Darryl, and you were pointing to different things that you could find in common between your tradition and our tradition.
The first thing we noticed, and we have a picture of, I think, Ken Crow and Jim Crow probably, standing in that back room against a display. And one of the things that was on the display was a photo of the big set, if I'm recalling, in
1906.
And it included some men sitting out in front of a building with a cello and a saxophone, and we kept looking at it and saying, that looks familiar. When we got back and checked our photos, we have a picture almost exactly the same number of men outside in front of a building with a cello and a tenor saxophone. They look the same. I believe we put them side by side 10 years ago when we were here in a program, possibly. Those photos exist, and we go, that's amazing. They look exactly, even today when I see one of those photos, I have to figure out which one it is, because they look like the same group. The other thing was, there was a display of various names of songs and so forth, and one of the things, Ian was standing over my shoulder at the time, and he says, now the leader of the groups in the pubs has a strike sheet, or a sheet in his pocket, a pocket sheet, and it has the names of the songs they plan to sing that night, and maybe what key they're in, if they have an instrument to play the starting note or anything. And I said, you mean like this? I pulled it out of my pocket and handed it. It's approximately the same kind of sheet. That's the names of all the songs we plan to sing, what key they're in, what the first note is. And so I had the same sort of sheet.
Yeah, absolutely extraordinary. And yeah, I think they were very amazed that so much of what Glen Rock treasured and took for granted was here to be seen as well. And they were the similarities, and Darryl's already pointed out some of the differences. Now, I don't know if Mike is still around. Mike, are you there? Can you come forward? Did you manage to pair my Bluetooth speaker with the